Hey there. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I'm Lacey Verbick and I'm here with my favorite flamingo, Becky North. How you doing, Becky?
Hi, Lacey. Happy day. Happy day. I am
Happy Wednesday.
happy Wednesday. I forgot what day it was. But yeah, I gotta be honest. We're experiencing like some weird phenomenons here. So I'm a little sniffly and a little stuffy. So if you guys
Mm.
see or hear that in my voice, I apologize. And we've had some crazy weird things with the weather here this week, but we're still, and I'm going to keep saying this till it's actually here, but one step closer to spring. And I am excited for more sunshine and warm weather. And I just am keeping laser locked on that. How are you this week, Lacey?
Well, I am so good. We're also having some weird weather around here. I know we always kind of mention the weather, but we're both in the Midwest, and generally, what happens in your neck of the woods then happens shortly after in my neck of the woods. And it was true again today and yesterday. I think I woke up this morning and it was 56 degrees, and by the time I left work, it was 25 and like
Yes.
windy, like some
Right.
kind of strange spring winter mixed cyclone bizarro
Yeah.
weather. But we survived, and
We survived.
I'm at home and in my warm cozies. So this is what you get.
This
But
is what you get.
I'm a happy camper. So yeah, all is well. Just a kind of just a busy week. Lots of twists and turns this week, but all good. So
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it.
yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yep. And I think I'm starting us off today. So here we go. In today's episode, we're diving into your questions. We have a question from Faye M. And she asks, how tidy is too tidy? I feel like I'm constantly picking up after everyone, but if I don't, the mess stresses me out. At the same time, I don't want to spend all my time cleaning instead of actually enjoying my home and family. Yep. This is a good one. Kind
This
of
is a good
different.
one.
Kind of different than what we're used to. So thank you, Faye. I'll Becky, I'm you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I am just gonna say, if it's okay, Lacey, before we start, I just want to give a disclaimer that, like, listen, we're all doing the best we can, right? And sometimes things happen in our life, and those things can send us into hyper focus, or they may send us into like dehabilitation. And we're all doing the best that we can. And it's okay to say, hey, I need help with this right now. And if that's where you are, like, we see you, right? Like, that's okay. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that before we talk about this, because, well, if I'm honest, I was like, well, Faye has obviously been to my house recently, and she's like, girl, get it together. I mean, like, listen, it's not dirty here. It's not like it's very healthy to live in and stuff like that, but like it just feels a little more than what I normally like, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
um I would say what I just keep hearing really, really, really loud is like, we no longer live in the leave it to beaver era,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like, you aren't you like most, even if you are a stay-at-home mom, there's such a different expectation than there was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40
Mm-hmm.
years ago, for what you're doing with your kids as a parent and as a stay-at-home parent. And like, oh, well, you have to be involved and you have to do all of these things and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I would say, a lot of families can't afford to be stay-at-home parents anymore, right? Like that, they need to have two different incomes and stuff like that. And so, like, I guess really my first and probably biggest piece of advice, Faye, is that, like, define what clean is for you. Like, define it, set the expectation and say, this is what I expect. And then let everybody else's expectations go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's gonna find a reason to be mad about something, right? Like, if it's your mother or your mother-in-law coming over and you don't fold the towels right, or you don't mop the floor right, or you don't do this, like happily they can do it. Like if it's not to their standard and they want to come to your house and complain about it, then just be like, "Oh, well, thank you so much for volunteering to do that."
Yeah,
Right? Like,
here's the
I
broom.
mean, in a nice way, but like when we can just define what that is for us, because I think for every person it probably looks a little bit different, and that's okay. So like you and your partner, or if you don't have a partner, you by yourself get to sit down and make that expectation and then share it with your family. That's probably my first and biggest, most profound piece of advice about this part.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Becky. And it's true that there's no right answer for the collective, right?
Yeah.
Every mother has a different opinion, and every family has a different need, and every individual has different standards. So there really is no right answer, Faye. The good news is that, yeah, you get to figure out what that is for you, and exactly what Becky said. So brilliant, Becky. And you touched on something that made me think comfort zone, like everybody's individual comfort zone
Yeah.
is different, right? Some people are, cannot function without completing, without everything immaculate, and some people would rather have a little bit of a mess because it looks cozy, right? Like, I
Yeah.
I think it spans a wide spectrum of
Yes.
differences and preferences. So yeah, I mean, that's the first thing, and I think that's real good news, right? Is
Yeah.
that really, no matter where you fall on the spectrum, you're not doing it wrong.
That's right. That's
As
right.
long
And
I mean, as long as you're not having, the obvious health and safety concerns, right? Who cares? Who cares where you are, on that spectrum of engagement with tidiness? Who
yes.
cares?
Yes. Thank you. I mean, like, listen, my grandma had this like her like sitting room couch
Yeah.
was covered in plastic,
Yeah,
right? Like we didn't go in the sitting room.
I remember.
Like
Yeah.
like you didn't step foot in that room.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody ever sat on that couch. Like I'm pretty sure they had it for however long they had it until she passed away, and I don't know that anybody ever actually sat on it. Like
A
like for
couch
real,
that
a
never
couch.
had a butt.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
room that was never used ever, right? And like I know that things I've just talked about how things have evolved, but like goodness, don't be afraid to live in your home,
Mhm. How
right?
silly.
Like your home doesn't have to be inviting for everybody, but it needs to be inviting for your family.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yes,
take the
ma'am.
plastic off the couch because nobody wants to sit on that crap. And
Yeah.
like instead just scotch guard it, right?
Well, I don't.
Like
Yeah, maybe they didn't have Scotch Guard back then. That's why they
probably
did
not.
that. Yeah, I remember a grandmother that also had a plastic couch that I always just thought, egads, like why would anybody have that? Like why would anybody
Yeah.
put that in their house? Because it had an energetic sort of barrier around it, right?
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
was it was like repulsive. Like, nope, don't sit here. Like, whoa, it had a vibe.
Yeah, I
So,
remember walking like into the sitting room one time because I was being like, like I wanted to test boundaries as a child, as children do.
oh
And
yeah.
my cousin was like, he was quite a bit older than I was. So I was probably 7 or 8, and he was probably 17. And he looked out for me a lot as a kid, but he was like, you better get your ass out of that room right now because if Grandma May sees you in there, like it is not going to be good. He's like, don't even like, you better figure out how to get your footprints out of the carpet, out of the vacuum lines on the carpet, because she is coming for you. Like,
Oh no.
and I remember like looking at him because I don't think I'd ever heard him say anything not kind ever. And for him to be like, move now, like, move your butt. Like, I was like,
You're
I
gonna
didn't
get
even,
killed.
yeah, yeah. So,
Oh my goodness. Wow. This is related. I remember, and I'm not going to quote this verbatim or maybe even correctly, but I heard a quote seemed resonant here. Clean enough to be healthy, but messy enough to be happy.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
and I, again, I'm not sure whose quote that is. Thank you, whoever it is, for letting me borrow and butcher that a little bit. But that makes so much sense, doesn't it? It needs to be clean enough to be healthy and messy enough to be happy. Because guess what? Uh, Life is not perfect. Every day is not the same. And if we're doing life right, our days are full.
Yes.
And
Yeah. And when they're
yeah,
not,
can
we
they be?
need rest.
Yes, absolutely. And fun over cleaning, pretty much always. That's my
Yeah,
motto.
I have that on. I'm glad you said that because I have that on my list. Because, like, listen, again, I want to say, like, your house needs to be a healthy space, right? And again, like, I know that there are times where people can get into that and it's not healthy, and there can be a lot of feelings around that. And, like, just again, it's okay to ask for help if you need it, right? Like,
Sure.
it's okay for that. But, like, your house needs to be healthy, like, for you and your family and just general. But I have that too. Like, the kids are not going to remember that the house was freaking pristine, or they're going to remember that the house was pristine instead of, like, oh, I didn't get
Yeah.
to go do these things because of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think I said on last week's episode, like, the laundry's never done, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dishes are never done. There's
Yep.
always, right? But do you know what that
Right.
means? That my kids are eating,
Yep.
right?
That's
Like,
right.
that we are blessed enough to have food to be able to fill their bellies. And, like, so yes, I agree with that 100%, is like leaning into the what's more important in this moment, because I will say, and, like, this is telling of me, I can swing both ways. I can get super hyper focused and I want, like, I am bleaching cabinets and I am, like, taking everything out and I'm organizing and we're making spreadsheets of our pantry and we're, like,
Yeah.
like those are all things I have legitimately done. And I can also swing the other way where, like, I start to see things piling up. Like, right now, I've mentioned several times about, like, Girl Scout cookies, and because we're the our troops leader for cookies, we have, like, I feel like there are cookies everywhere. Like, they're coming out of the cracks of this point. Like, but, like, we have cookies that, like, oh, we need to send these, we are delivering these, and, like, everything's just kind of cluttery. It's not messy, it's not dirty, it's still clean, but it's
Yeah.
cluttery, and I start to feel paralysis
Mm.
because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like like I can't move, right? And so, and that's me personally, that's not every person, right? Like, this is, I can only speak to me really, but, like, I've swung in both directions where maybe, like, hey, Becky who's in paralysis needs to shake it off and, like, you know, get her stuff together a little, and, like, hey, Becky who's like obsessive making spreadsheets of her pantry needs to, like, step away and take the kids to the park, right? Because all those bleach fumes are getting to your head, right? So there's, like, there can be a pendulum, and you may be a person who experiences both also. And I just want to say again, like, I think that's normal and natural and things that we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. You know what? That is, I love that you shared that. And for me, I think the word I experienced definitely the one side of that pendulum swing, which is I use the word resistance for it. It's definitely resistance. It's like no, when my space gets into a state that I don't enjoy or appreciate or want to move around in, I just go total resistance mode. I'm like, nope, that's it. I just push it away. I pretend it's not there. I go do something else. It just becomes
Yes.
a source of resistance, and sometimes it takes me days to move through it. To like you said, Becky, kind of coach yourself back into it. Like,
Yep.
come on, you gotta, or reset. Energetically somehow to get past the resistance because I can't I kind of can't talk myself into it sometimes. Sometimes it has to be like I have to shift, or I have to get in a new mood, or I have to go, you know, go for a walk and come back, um or sometimes I have to just like leave my house too. Like sometimes I have to
Yeah.
be like, I'm checking out. Okay. Like, can't do this right now. Like, gotta go to my favorite consignment shop and look for something I don't need. Right. Like, so, I mean, total honesty here. Right.
Right.
But resistance is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Avoidance, resistance, right? There's a million words, that apply to this situation. But I actually really appreciate the opportunity to reflect on that, because I don't think I've heard myself describe my experience maybe ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, that's enlightening. That was a little bit of therapy there.
Well,
So thank you for that.
free 99.
Becky and Faye, thank you for the free therapy. I wanted to share a resource, and this is something that helps me move through resistance. And I printed it out so I could show it here. So we'll post this on social, or help you guys out with an example here. But one thing that really helps me, and I don't know what this is about my particular brain or learning style, but when I have a checklist, I'm much more inclined to do it.
Same
I like to check the box.
girl.
So
Yes.
for me, so I found this resource like, I don't know, 2 years ago, I guess. It was from care.com at the time, which you've all heard of, I'm sure. It's an everyday cleaning schedule, and it's broken out by daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So it includes all those things you don't think about doing sort of less regularly than every day or every week. And I just really appreciate how it's laid out. And it mentions things like cleaning baseboards, deep cleaning ovens, removing scuff marks on walls, cleaning the deck or patio, right? Cleaning out your HVAC vents, blinds, light fixtures, right? All these kinds of things you don't think about. We live
Yeah.
with every single day. I mean, I've got a ceiling fan right above my head, but how often do you think about cleaning that?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
I not that often for me. And so this checklist is just really helpful. And I know there's a million, I'm sure, cleaning checklists out there on the interwebs that are like this, but something about this particular resource I can get behind, and it motivates me. It drives me to say, okay, look at that, I checked it off, cool. And then I'm like, and then it keeps me conscientious of weekly, monthly, and yearly
Yes.
when I'm going through day-to-day stuff. And I find it really easy to delegate the weekly and monthly things because they're less frequent. So I find, and I mean, this is a theme, I think we say this in every single episode, Becky, but get help. Give everyone in your house a job. I don't care. I don't
Yes.
care if you're 3 years old. I don't care if you're 2 years old. I don't care if you're 80 years old. Everybody, every able bodied person can do a job. And even some
Yes.
folks who are not able bodied can still do jobs, right? And figure out how to contribute to the family. But I find that the weekly and monthly and even yearly stuff is sometimes the most easily delegated
Mm.
stuff. Like, hey, listen, I need help with this. Part of keeping our house in check is that we're going through this checklist, right? And then the daily stuff usually falls on the, let's say, mom and dad in a conventional household, right? Or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess that's just a suggestion I have for you is, rather than feeling like the cleaning's all on you, rather than, you know, getting into overwhelm and resistance and apathy and all the things we've just described, get yourself a resource. Guide your energy with
Yes.
something that's structured, something that's proven, something that other mothers have used successfully.
Yes. And I want to say I have something very similar on my list. Because and mine was about like getting your family involved, right? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna say it, and this may ruffle some feathers, and if so, it's okay. It's okay if we don't agree, right? And but like, listen, we're not doing our kids any favors if we're doing their laundry or they don't know how to like properly wash dishes or like
Yes.
mop floors or cook a meal when they move out of your house. We're not doing them any favors by like
Yes.
doing it for them all the way up, right? Like we have kind of always had that philosophy in my house that like part of our job as parents is to like prepare our kids for the real world.
Yes.
And one second, sorry, I'm gonna cough, guys.
I'm gonna show you my flamingo
I love
tumbler
it.
topper while Becky's coughing. Okay, and we're back.
Okay, sorry about that. That dang barometric pressure change has my sinuses going crazy. But like my husband and I actually had that conversation this week about our oldest where he was like, I feel like he has the life skills to be successful in the real world. Like he could make dinner. He knows how to do his laundry. He knows how to. Now, are there some things that probably still need some fine tuning? Yes, right? But like
Of course.
he's going to be okay, right? And
Mhm.
like that's all we really want as parents is for our kids to be okay. But the checklist thing is so big. We actually made our kids like these little binders of like checklists for like when they were cleaning their room. And like, I mean, it was super broken down. Like, okay, first you're going to get a box to put everything that doesn't have a home in. And then you're going to pick up all of the laundry, all the dirty laundry. If there's dirty laundry on your floor, you're going to do that. And then you're going to pick up everything red and put it in
Yeah.
its home. And if it doesn't have a home, it goes in the no home box, right? And then at the end, you like decide what to do with the stuff in the no home box. There's this whole checklist with that. And it's a beautiful thing for when our kids were also much younger, right? Because it made cleaning like you could do fun, right? Like, okay, now pick up everything red, right? Like, and it also
Yeah.
made it attainable, right? And so even
Sure.
with those younger kids, you could teach them to do that. And then like even recently we started looking at our chore lists and the things that we like to say as a family we want to make sure this is done and defining what that meant to us as a family. So if a list like Lacey showed is not the best thing for you, like and you are like I need more control than that but a list would be helpful, then I would totally encourage that. Set up a family planning meeting, whether that's with your kids or just your partner, right? And say, like, and really define what that is, right? So we define what does closing our kitchen down for the night look like, right? That means all of the dishes have been done, all of the counters have been scrubbed, and we've even rubbed our hands on them because we have a very beautiful granite countertop, but it's sometimes hard to see stuff on it because of the coloring of it. So
Mm-hmm.
like we even rub our
Yeah.
hands across the top to make sure that they're clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Love it.
the scrub daddies are in the dishwasher so they can be washed that night. The like identifying those things so then if a gap is missed, if something is actually missed, we can go back and say, do you remember how we talked about this? And we have a point of reference. So kind of like I was saying before, Faye, where I was like, define what clean is to you. We did that on a very granular level, just to help my out of the box kids
Yeah.
function better, right? Because then
Yeah.
the expectation was really clear because they would be like, yeah, we cleaned the kitchen. And I'm like, no, you freaking didn't. No, you didn't, right? Like, we can't expect our 3 year old, our 5 year old, our 15-year-old, our spouse, our grandpa, whoever that is, to actually like read our mind. We have to make those expectations clear. And we have to say, I'm not going to be the one to control it all because you're one person and you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. You shouldn't try.
Yeah,
You shouldn't try to do it. And
it's not
you
fair.
mentioned something really, really cool about out of the box kids and kind of how you've enabled them to be successful with chores and and holding down some of those more adult independent daily tasks and things you made me think of something, and I've sort of approached it a little differently with my son who's now 16, you know, and get it, you know, going to be going off on his own directions here in the next couple of years. Um, and what I've done with him is I've said, listen, your daily task, we're cooking a meal, you know, we're shopping for a meal, providing a meal, paying for a meal, you know, producing a meal, and you're sitting down and enjoying that meal with us as a family. You're going to clean up. Like that's your, as a 16-year-old person, that's your job in this house.
Yep.
That's what you do. And he helps take out the trash here and there when it's full. The rule is when the trash is full, you take it out. But I've been kind of the, the I guess my philosophy with him is mastery, because he is a, like, I want you to do a thing so many times that you become a master, because he's the kind of person that, well, he's a neurodivergent person, and um, has a sort of very impulsive, distractible, all the things, and so he he tends to do a very shallow job. He tends to do an incomplete job. He tends to really, really lean in, and then all of a sudden he's lost interest, right? Like he's it takes a lot for him to really stay with something. So my focus with him is, you know, every time I have to redirect you, every time you come back to it, every day that you're doing this same thing, we are creating mastery. You're the best dishwasher in this house, right? You know how to do this better than anybody else, and you are improving each and every day because you are tightening up your skill, right? Like every day you're washing dishes a little bit better. Every day the dishes are getting a little cleaner. Every day the cabinets are getting a little more organized. Every day, right? You're understanding better what the chemicals are used for to get to the appropriate level of clean, right? So like some might, I guess some might say that's torture, but for my son, the repetition is necessary for him
Yep.
to perform at a high level. And so that's what we do. That's what we do with cleaning. But you know, don't, I guess, Faye, it the overarching piece of advice here is get help, you know, and involve those family members, but also don't be afraid to, you know, understand each person's unique needs and get them involved in a way that serves and supports them.
Yes.
If you can. Now obviously, you know, you're gonna you know, you got to take care of you too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take your time, pace that out, you know, don't feel don't let that be something that overwhelms. Let that be something that activates you.
Yes. Yes. I know the last thing I have on my list, not to say I won't have more to say because that always seems to happen, but the last thing on my list is I actually saw this video once and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to try that." And I haven't tried it yet. So this was a great reminder of that, but it was a mom and she was like, "I'm a recovering cleanaholic." And which I thought was funny. It was enough to hook me into the video, right? But it was just a video, and she talked about like one of the ways that I've been able to be more present with my kids is we talked as a family and we set up a timer, and that she was like, the timer goes off on our smart device. I'm not going to say the name because it will go off in here, but they talked about their specific one, but on their smart device, and that it will go off in every room of the house, like everywhere that there's one of those. It is like it's set every day at that time, and everybody comes together and they reset the house. Like they reset,
Oh,
and I don't know if that counted bedrooms or not, right? Because I'm like, I check on my kids' bedrooms and stuff, but it's a once a week thing because I need them to own their own space, right? But like resetting, we call it our master room because we have a very open concept. But like the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, they're like we all just work together and we reset. She's like, that doesn't mean that maybe we don't watch a show after, or that doesn't mean that we don't this, but we set it to the standard of what it needs to be when we wake up in the morning. So we're all waking up to a good environment and a good, safe,
nice.
clean space for us to come and begin our day. And she was like, it has been the biggest game. I wish I could remember who it was. It's
I
not like
love that.
somebody I follow or something like that, but I was like, this is the greatest piece of advice. Like, even if it were just me and my husband, right? To be like, okay, we're gonna set an alarm, and then every day together, we're gonna spend 30 minutes and just reset our house. So that way it's the way that we want it to be in the morning.
I love that. I think that that's marvelous. That's marvelous tip because I don't know about you, but at my house, it's a slow decline
Yeah.
from usually Monday morning, everything looks really tight and buttoned up. And then by Friday afternoon, it's like, oh, hell broke loose.
Yeah, right. Right. Yes.
So it
Yes.
does, yeah, it would be nice if like every day there was that little bit of a maintenance, you
Yeah.
know, engagement that kept things looking good every single day. Boy, I think that would
Which would make Friday
help my
easier.
that would help my mental health for sure. I would love that.
Right? Like if we could do a little bit every day instead of like we talked about, like we like this is a concept that's talked about all over like the 1%, right? Like so if you did that 1% every day, how does that compound to create more time for you in your week? Because then you're
Mm-hmm.
not spending 5 hours cleaning the house. You're like,
Yes.
okay, we need to mop the floors. We need to like do or we need to do the monthly or weekly things, right? But like the daily things are just they're just done.
Yeah. I love it. Wow. You know, I've got a few more things to share. I'm trying to figure out which one's next. But I wrote down practice allowing. Use untidy moments in your home to practice allowing. And that doesn't mean we allow all the mess all the time. That doesn't mean we live in a permanent mess. What I mean is use it as a training ground to get better at saying, yeah, okay, well, that's the situation right now, and I'm choosing not to overdo, overcompensate, make up for other people's, whatever behavior. And instead, I'm going to say, not life or death, you know, we'll come back to it later, or I'll circle back to it tomorrow. Or and what I'm encouraging is not procrastination. What I'm encouraging is non-attachment. Oh, there's the boy left his pants on the floor in the bathroom. Okay. Well, I'm going to practice allowing that so that he can have the opportunity to learn that he should pick his pants up off the bathroom floor. Right. But I think as moms, as moms, and, we don't want to look at it. And the easier thing to do is to say, oh, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to pick it up, or I'm just going to, and yes, there's a time and a place for that. For example, my son left a wet towel on the floor yesterday, and it was up against the wood trim. And I knew for a, 100% fact that was going to cause water damage. You can't, wood trim can't be wet, at least for long periods of time. And so I was like, I, I did not allow in that moment. I picked that up because I knew that my personal space was at risk. Okay. But
Right? Yeah.
like practicing allowing, I think it's just a really healthy way for moms to be like, listen, you're responsible for your stuff. And that's part of growing up. And if I do everything for you, then you never learn. If I'm always picking it up, then you're always throwing it down. And until you see the process full circle, till you set it down and pick it up yourself, you're not, I'm not serving you. You're not learning. You haven't learned.
Yes. I love that you said that. Like, I love that so much that you talked about that. I have a story that correlates to that. I'll be fast, I promise. But
Take your
like,
time.
but um my husband saw one of those videos on TikTok or Facebook or whatever where they did like, they like covered the table in foil and they dumped the spaghetti and they like made the spaghetti on the table and they like ate with their hands and stuff. And
Ooh,
he was like, I really want to do this with the kids. And I was like, I am not doing that. Like, there is no way. And he was like, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll do this. And so he actually like planned. He planned for me to go out and do something, and he did it while we were gone. And I actually think, funny story, Lacey came a couple years ago when I was here when I for my birthday, and we went to a concert, and I think he actually did it that night. So
Did he
funny story.
really?
I
I
think
didn't
he
know
did,
that.
yeah. But and you know what? All of my kids were like, Mom, we don't ever want to do that again. It was too messy. It was too much. Right. And like, don't get me, my kids can make a mess. Like, I don't even know how. Like,
Burnt waffles. I know how.
yeah,
I
right.
remember.
Burnt
I
waffle.
remember
Like,
the
I mean,
burnt
like,
waffle.
I can like the house could literally be sparkling, and I walk in to go to the bathroom and come back out, and a bomb went off. Like, I don't know how it happened so fast. I'm sure every parent can relate, but
Yeah.
like, it was funny because he allowed them to have this experience, right? Something that maybe we wouldn't have done. And he knew that he had to allow them to do that when I wasn't there, because I wasn't going to allow that shit. No way in hell. Right. And they were like, oh, we don't ever want to do this again. Like, no.
Felt it felt weird. That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
So I
that
love that. Like,
when you give them what, unusual freedoms, they're like, "Ooh, that doesn't feel
yeah.
right."
Yeah. And I would say, like, in turn to that too, like in the allowing, in the example that you gave, like allowing your kids' pants to stay on the floor in the bathroom so that way they can learn that responsibility and learn the thing there. Like, take active note of what that frees up for you by not taking things that aren't necessarily your responsibility.
Mm, yes, I love that.
Right? So in your job in that moment, is it your job to like pick it up? It might be, like you said, wet towel, something like that. Or like, oh crap, the neighbors come, or somebody's
Yeah.
coming in 5 minutes and we're like Zoom cleaning, right? But like the how many pairs of pants are you picking up off the floor? Like, where else are you doing that? And how else is that showing up? Because if you're doing it with just cleaning, it's probably showing up in a lot of areas in your life,
Mm,
right? Which means in a lot of areas you're taking on more than that is necessarily yours. I'm not saying like don't
yeah.
be an overachiever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like I am guilty of being like, God, I'm so tired. I'm just there's so much going on. And like really having to look back and be like, what did I choose to take that I didn't necessarily need to? Right?
Mhm.
Like, and
Sure.
sometimes a lot of times without even thinking, because it's as easy as picking up the pants and putting them in the laundry basket.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah, for sure. You know, I got I got three more really important things that I think I need to share, but I'm gonna take it one at a time. This is kind of related to the allowing piece. Have you considered what untidiness, assuming it bothers you, have you considered what untidiness is bringing up for you? Like your response or reaction to untidiness, the trigger of untidiness, if you will, what's behind that? Why does it upset you? You know, did your mom punish you, right? Or maybe it was, you lived in an extremely dirty house and you didn't feel safe when you were growing up, or maybe you, I don't know. Maybe you had a teacher somewhere in elementary school who was a perfectionist and had the cleanest classroom ever on the face of the earth, and you you felt that every space hereafter is not good enough, right? I don't know. Whatever the triggering thing might be, like why does it bring up something? Why does it cause emotion or feelings or strong feelings or guilt or boundary issues or whatever that might be? Just consider why, right?
Yep.
Because for me, untidiness creates visual noise, I think, is the best way I can describe that. Like the way that it makes me feel, it's unrest, it's it's noise, it's chaos, right? But it's visual, it's spatial chaos for me. And I think that um, I don't know exactly what's, I guess I haven't, I'm giving you advice and I haven't done maybe the fullest exploration, but like I grew up with a lot of things in my space, like a lot of personal belongings, a lot of things. And well, as you can see here in my studio, for those of you watching us on YouTube, there are a lot of things in here, but generally speaking, this is probably the busiest room in my house, but all just because it's got fun stuff. But my whole entire house, if you were to go take a tour of my house is very clean. It's very tidy. It's very neat. It's very, everything has a spot and there's not a lot of extra. Pretty much anywhere else in my house, and I think it's a result of the way I was raised. That visual chaos noise made me feel maybe unsettled, and now that I'm an adult and I can control that, I don't have that in my life,
You
right?
know, oh gosh, that's so true. Because I had a point in my life where I didn't really have things. I had an interesting childhood where my parents were probably more like hoarders, and my aunt who raised me a lot to like
Mm.
her husband, whom I loved, my uncle, he was a military man, and we kept things very, very clean, and everything had a place, and everything had a like, and there was an expectation, and that was to be met. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just mean like that's how it was. It was two very yin and yangs. But um we made like I lost like everything from my childhood
Mm,
practically. Like
goodness.
there are not childhood pictures of me. They don't exist anymore. There are not like those things. And when I first came into adulthood, I clung to, I remember actually saying to my now mother-in-law, like, I don't have stuff, right? And now I'm like, get rid of the stuff, right? Like, but there was a moment of like, I have to cling to
Yeah.
anything. And I think like, listen, I think my house is beautiful, right? It is lived in, but it is beautiful and it is clean and it is like, but like I had this like, I have to hold on to the things because I don't have things. So that's a great point. Like really finding the heart of why. Why is it that why is it that untidy doesn't, or why is it that you have to hold on to the things, or why is it that like cleaning is harder, or why is it that, because I know people who are the other way, their parents ran a really tight ship and they run not quite as tight a ship,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
as a result of that, right? And
Mm,
so like
sure.
really finding the root of that, that's a great point, Lacey.
Wow. Well, thanks. I feel like I said a lot of words around a pretty concise point, but that's my style. So there you go. Okay. Two more things. I wrote down, and I do this in my own home, so personal advice here. I have a sanctuary in my house. My sanctuary is my bedroom, and it is neat as a pin. And guess what? The rest of my house can be in chaos, and as long as my sanctuary is neat, I'm okay. Right? Like it's my space that it's not that no one else can touch it. I don't keep the door locked or anything else. People go in there, dogs go in there, all sorts of things happen day to day, but that space is perfectly appointed. It's dusted, stuff is tucked away. I have flowers, I have candles, right? Like I have like my pillows the way I want them, and I get a great deal of satisfaction from my pillows being like neat and tidy on the bed, and I have a lot of pillows, and I love pillows. Um, but it it feels like me, and it feels like my preferences, and it reflects my state of mind, my state of being, right? And that one space being aligned with me makes me better able to function in a space that isn't necessarily the way I want it.
Love
But I
that.
can function around other people who aren't me and don't have my sense of order and don't have my meticulous nature, previous recovering perfectionism, right? So having that said, I don't know, for me, Faye, like that's a huge one, right? Is
Love
I
that.
don't have to be all wrapped up in the things in my environment that are not exactly how I want them to be when I have a space that's aligned with me, aligned with the way I see my living space and the way that I want to feel in it. And related to this, I put right, find tiny tidy bubbles rather than trying to tackle the whole house. And this
Yes.
inspiration came from Marie Kondo. I love the Marie Kondo book, The Magic. It's called the Magic of, oh gosh, I'm gonna mess it up. The Magical Art of Tidying Up, I think, something like that. Anyway, it's Marie Kondo's book on tidy, and I absolutely loved it. Changed my world. I fold my clothes and towels differently now. Thank you, Marie Kondo.
Same girl.
So anyway, but what I'm saying is like when a tidy bubble in my house is my towel drawer. I open up the towel drawer and all my towels are folded Marie Kondo style, and they're all standing up like neat little soldiers in the cabinet, and it makes me so happy. So
Yes.
guess what? That's a tidy bubble, right? And even if the rest of my house is not okay in that moment, those tidy bubbles give me a sense of ease and control and peace and calm. So
Yes.
find those things, create those things for yourself, and then let the rest be.
Recipe. Yeah.
And
I have one more
thoughts?
thing that came to me. Can I
Yeah,
say it?
absolutely.
Okay. You could tell me no.
I would never.
Just making sure. Okay. Uh Also, can I just say, like, in the terms of this, of let go of the idea of perfect, right? Let's let go, because I said, and that's why this came up for me, is because I was like, unless you have somebody coming over and you're speed cleaning, right? Like,
Mm.
listen, if you're like, okay, I need to get things back up to generally like okay, because like we just had the stomach flu, or life's been crazy, or like there's smelly football clothes we need to make sure we take care of, or whatever that is, right? Like, because life does happen to all of us. I don't care what anybody says, it happens at every point. But like oh my God, somebody's coming and my house isn't pristine, and it has to be. And I'm guilty of this. I am so guilty of this.
Oh, me too.
Right? But like, can we let go of that? Because the truth is, if I'm coming to your house, I'm not coming to see your house. I'm coming to see you. Right?
Yeah.
I'm coming to see your family. I'm coming to see your kids. I'm coming to do that. And like, so can we like collectively say we're going to let go of the idea of perfect? Like, it has to be perfect, because ain't
Hmm.
nobody perfect, right? Like, I have
Yes.
a dear friend who lives close to me. If Lacey and I lived close to each other, it would be the same, but we don't live as close as we wish, right? But like,
That's
I have a
right.
dear friend who lives close to me, and I know that I could call on them for anything, right? Like, they have been my middle of the night friends, right? And I have been theirs. And I am not afraid to go into their house and see dishes in the sink. And you know what? Most of the time when I see them, I wash them. Not because I'm like, oh gosh, there's dishes in their sink, but because I'm like, oh, this is a way I could serve them. I can take a little something off their plate,
Oh.
because, like, now they don't have to do this, right? So they're in the bathroom and I'm going to real quick load their dishwasher, right? And I'm not saying load people's dishwashers. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, like, let's let go of the, my house has to sparkle and it has to be white and it has to be this and it can't look lived in, and my kids can't be loud and they can't make a mess and they can't do any of that. Like, let's let go of all those expectations and connect with the humans in front of us.
Yes.
Right? Do what you need to do for you. Find the sanctuaries, find the clean bubbles. I love those things, right? Like, find the things that make you joy, set the routines that are best for your family. But like, let go of perfect, because perfect doesn't exist.
And the longer you're preoccupied with the pursuit of perfection, the less present you are.
Yeah. And you deserve to be present. Like, you
You.
deserve those memories. Whew, this is big. Whew, whew. You
Woo!
deserve those memories as much as your kids.
Yes.
Like, I think I talk about that a lot. Like, I want my kids to have all of these memories. And that really just hit me like a freight train. Like, I deserve those memories with them. It's not just that they deserve to be able to take those into their life and build on them, but I deserve to make those with them. And so
Hmm.
do you.
And your house will wait.
That's
for
right.
that memory to happen, right? And your house will, no one will remember what state your house was in when that memory was made.
They won't.
So make the memory.
Make the memory. Thank you so much for such a fun question, Faye. I think this has been wonderful, and I am so grateful that you sent this in and that we've had the opportunity to talk about it. And I'm excited to hear what your takeaways are from this. So thank you so much for asking. And I know, Lacey, I we are coming up on the end of season 1 of This Flocked Up Life.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's been almost a full year since we launched?
Well, I can believe it. And it has been such a growing and stretching opportunity for me. And I am, just as I mentioned earlier, it feels like therapy some days. And I am
Yes.
so, so grateful. And to all of our contributors sending us questions. Wow. I mean, you've just made this such a tremendous way to start this podcast and movement and community that we're building. And yeah, season 2. I mean, this has been, we've done 24 episodes by the time
Yeah.
we hit a year. And I just feel super proud of that and super blessed that we've been able to touch the lives of some other mothers and show up for ourselves too. And
Yes.
yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what season 2 holds.
Me too. And I think it's going to be some new, fun, and exciting things. So stay tuned with us, guys. We are so grateful to be on this journey with you. Okay, that's all for now. Have a great week.